So today we're going to be putting together a pretty unique piece. I'm not sure I've seen anything quite like this before. And it kind of plays along with the whole summer carnival sort of theme. This would actually work maybe for a movie enthusiast too, as a popcorn cart. And well, let's just kind of dive right in and take a look at what we have here. I'm going to begin by doing some simple paper piecing just so we can kind of get our feet wet and get some of these pieces out of the way so that we know what we're dealing with. And then I'll just take it one step at a time. As I don't always mention this, but this is my first time putting this together, and I'm going to walk you through it. And if I can do it, you can do it. Okay, so each side of the cart has a wheel, and each wheel is made up of these two black pieces, this lighter piece, a red piece, and this blue piece. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to glue the two black pieces together. This is just for additional strength, to give this piece a little more integrity so that structural integrity, not actual integrity. But so yeah, we're going to get this stuff glued together. Just take one and glue it right on top of the other. Just make sure everything matches up nicely. Okay, and just press that down. Next, we're going to take the lighter color. In my case, it's AC Vanilla. And we're going to glue that to the top of the black layer. The black layer is going to be all the way in back. Again, it's just structural to thicken up our wheels so they don't start bending after we put our little, whatever it is, candies. We actually have some of those. They're kind of like marshmallowy candy peanuts that we're going to put in there, just because the color is really nice and works well with the whole theme. But you're welcome to put whatever you want in there. And we're actually lining the inside with some acetate so that if you do have like chocolate or something, it doesn't bleed into the paper, doesn't absorb into the paper, and it'll keep it nice and clean, won't ruin the project. All right, so next we're going to do the red section, and we'll get that part glued into place. And again, you can totally put a little bit of popcorn in here. This would be a great little gift for a child or pretty much anyone, and you could totally jazz this up with some red, white, and blue as well, and add this to maybe, say, your 4th of July festivities as well as a nice little centerpiece. Okay, so finally, we're going to put this pool, AC Pool, that's the name of the color. It's a nice turquoise. We'll get that in place. And you'll notice that I'm putting a little bit of glue around each of the little circles here, just to make sure that none of those come flying off. And just line that up with the red piece as accurately as you can. Okay, so there is our first side of our first wheel. We're going to do this twice. Okay, that's very sturdy. And I'm going to actually pop this underneath my mat so that it dries nice and flat. And we'll move on. We'll just do the same thing one more time. If you want, you can go ahead and pause me and do this on your own time, and just fast forward. When you see me pick up a new set of pieces, you can resume, and we'll continue on with the assembly. There we go. Just pop that right on top of the other black piece. Make sure everything's nice and aligned. And just press that down. Okay. And we'll get my AC Vanilla. And work the perimeter of the actual wheel. There we go. And just pop that into place. Just do your best to get that aligned as accurately as you can. And press that down. All right, so just as we did last time, Next comes the red section. And this should go fairly quick. There's not a lot of weird shapes for those of you that have already made or are planning to make our beautiful balloon. That one, it's probably the most time-consuming project in this bundle. It wasn't hard. It was actually very fun and very rewarding based on the end result. I'm pretty much in love with it. Okay, press that down, grab our little turquoise color here, and get that glued into place. And that will pretty much wrap up the little wheels. I'll get that right into place here. Let's get that nice and aligned. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so those two pieces are all done. I'm going to put this one underneath my mat as well. Let that dry, you can see. And when you feel them, they're pretty sturdy. I mean, it's almost 5 pieces thick in some parts. And while we're working on some simple things, let's put together the little candy caption. And there's one for each side. Now, typically with something like this that's really small and detailed, I'll just squeeze out a little bit of glue on my nozzle and just kind of hit it with a few dots here and there. You don't really need a whole heck of a lot of glue on a piece like this. And just do your best to get it nice and centered on this little shadow layer, just like that. Okay, put that off to the side. Do that one more time. And before we get into the bulk of the assembly, there are a few tiny little features that make up all the components of the actual cart, and we'll put those together just to, again, get our feet wet a little bit. Okay, there's the other caption all done. So now there's a little platform that goes on one side, okay, and it's made up of this piece here. I've already pre-folded everything, and for this, you know what, we may as well, let's see, there it is. Let's just get these sections into place while everything is flat. Now, we're actually going to be doing things a little bit differently with this piece here. Instead of putting it in the center and leaving a border, we're actually going to align this so that it's right up against the very edge of this side. So all the way up to the edge, and then just make sure that you've got a nice even border going around the rest of it. Okay, so let's get that in place. Don't need a lot of glue for this. And this will kind of make it more fun towards the end when we have the whole cart pretty much assembled and we just need to add a few little finishing touches. Okay, so again, just kind of line that up right up to the very edge there. And I can kind of scooch that back a little bit more. I just kind of folded that section onto itself right here. And I'm just using my finger, running my finger along the actual base of this as well as that little red piece, just to make sure that it's pushed back as far as it can go. So it's nice and flush with that little area there. Okay, same thing here. Just a little bit of glue. A little bit of glue will do. Yep. And we're going to pop that in place like so. Get it nice and centered. I'm going to fold this piece over onto itself and just kind of nudge that back a little bit so it's nice and flush there. Again, making sure that you've got a nice even border all the way around here except for right there. And then on top, we have this piece, and instead of putting it right in the center, we're also going to nudge this back so that it's flush with the very back. Okay, so let's get our glue on this. And I'm just working while this is flat, just because it's a little bit easier to work when things are flat. And just pop that right into place. So again, push it back as far as you can. And I'm folding this down so I can kind of run my finger along the edge to make sure that I've got it right where it needs to be. Okay, so there you have it. And now I'm going to simply put some glue on this tab here. I'm going to get that out to the very edge of that tab. Bring this down and just connect those two sections together. Press and hold just for a moment. There we go. Just like that. And last little tab here. Get our glue on that. Okay. And bring that in, tuck it under, and get that aligned. Press and hold until it's set. Okay, so again, that's our little tray, whatever you want to call it. It's going to go on one side of our little cart. That's all complete. We're going to use this section here to actually attach it to the cart. We'll put that off to the side for now. Move that out of the way. And there are some little legs that we need to put on it, and instead of just making them thin, we decided to make it a little more sturdy. And with this piece, I'm just going to go ahead and assemble this first. So I've got everything folded. Go ahead and begin by putting glue on one of these little tabs on the side. Okay, and then just tuck that in, line it up, press and hold. Give that a second to set. Okay, I'm going to go over to the other side, get some glue on that, and get that aligned nicely. If you want, you can also put that down on your surface. However you want to do it's fine. Okay, now I'm going to go over here and put glue on this tab here. Just kind of flatten that out a bit and get that nice and lined up. You can move this section out of the way for now, just to make it easier to get your finger in there. There we go. And finally, we have one more little tab there. And if you are, if you want, just to make it easier so you don't make a mess, I could easily get my glue nozzle in there, but I'm just going to use a scrap piece of paper, throw a little bit of glue on it, and just paint that glue right on that tab there so that I don't make a huge mess. And that works out nicely. And then just connect that tab to that section there, press and hold. There we go. And then finally, just going to close this up, make it a nice solid piece with this section here. And to do that, we're going to apply some glue on these remaining 3 tabs. Just like that. Okay, spread that glue out to the very edges just to make sure that this thing doesn't come falling apart. There we go. And you can flare these tabs up slightly so that as you bring this down, it makes more contact with that entire surface. And just press and hold that for just maybe, I don't know, 30 seconds or so until we're sure it's fully set. Okay, so this is going to be, each side here is going to be a little foot. And then one of these sides is going to be the front, and that's where we're going to put this long panel here. And kind of like we did with the little tray, when we glue this on, we're not going to center it. We're going to bring it up to the top and leave an even border on just 3 sides. Okay, so go ahead and get your glue on this guy here. And let's lay that down, but again, align it so that it's flush with the top. This is the bottom. The skinnier part is the bottom, the fatter part is the top. That's the section that's going to be glued to the bottom of the cart. Okay, so that looks good. And we can flip this over to the side so we can put this little red piece on for the leg. Okay, and just like we did with that front part, we're going to align this to the top like so. So you don't want to center it. I mean, you do, but you want it to be flush with the top. like so. Okay, flip that over to the other side. Get that last piece in place. There we go. And voila. Just make sure that's nice and centered, nice and aligned with the top. And there we go. Okay, so our feet are done. So that's that. And at this point, we're going to transition over to the little roof, the detachable roof. Okay. And that is made up of these pieces here. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to start off with this color here, the lighter color. This is my AC Vanilla. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to, let me see here. Oh, that's why it was looking weird. Okay, well, we'll take this piece that doesn't have the larger piece on it, and we'll put our glue on the larger tab first. Okay, let's spread that glue out nice and thin. There's a smaller little tab there, but I'm not going to worry about that just yet. I'm going to focus on making sure that I get this aligned properly first. So just pop that in place like so. Make sure that you've got it in the right spot. I'm going to pop that in first like that, and then I'm going to fold it over onto itself. And you can see how these little scalloped sections, they line up nicely. That means that I have it aligned correctly here at this seam where we just added our glue. Okay, and then you'll also see that there's a tiny little tab there. I'm not going to worry about that just yet because I feel like we want to get the rest of this in place first before we move on to putting those little tabs in place. So now let's go over to this tab here. And let's spread that glue out. Take this neighboring piece and connect it. Don't worry about that tab just yet. Just pretend that this doesn't have a roof connected. We'll worry about that in just a moment. And get that connected, just like that. There we go. Okay, moving on over here, get some glue on this tab. And remember that tiny little tab that we kind of ignored? We'll come back to that, but I wanted to get the structure in place first before we go connecting that tiny little tab, since it's not really crucial to this part of the assembly. Okay, and that just leaves this tab and then one more tiny little tab. We'll take care of that in a minute. Get your glue on this tab here, connect it with this section here. Just make sure that you get it aligned as accurately as you can. There we go. Beautiful. And just give that a second to set. Now once we have the large tabs in place, we can, well, you know what? Let's get the roof on first. Move this out of the way and get your glue on these 3 long skinny tabs. And we're going to close this up, and that will kind of set the tone for the shape of our roof here. Spreading that glue out to the very edge. There we go. And just like we did before, you can flare these up, bring this down, and focus on aligning this side, the side that's opposite the side that it's currently hinged at. Just make sure that that is nice and aligned, and then the rest of it will kind of just fall into place. You may need to give this a nudge out or in, depending on how well we got everything aligned. That's looking good so far, I'd say. Yeah, that looks good. I'm going to push down from the inside because these little scallops here, I don't want to smush them. So I'm going to work from the inside instead of pushing from the top. And the table's kind of doing half the work for me anyway. Okay, and there's a layer that's going to go on top of this, and then even another layer on top of that, so I wouldn't be overly concerned with how things look on here. You do want them to be nice and flat. Okay, now we can go back in, and these tiny little tabs, I mean, they're microscopic. I'm pointing to them. Remember those tiny little tabs that we ignored before? Well, now's the time to throw a little bit of glue on that and just glue that to its neighbor. Just press and hold that for a moment. And that's just going to kind of keep everything nice and uniform and nice and sturdy. Okay, and then there was another one on the opposite side. So just throw a little dot of glue on there, straighten it out, and just press and hold while it sets. Okay. All right, all right. Okay, so roof is coming together here. There we go. Okay, now we've got a little overlay. It's going to go on top here. And that's going to give us kind of a two-toned effect. Now I'm just taking a look at my roof here to make sure that all of my little sections are nice and flat, and if they're not, you may want to just go in with a scrap piece of paper, throw a little bit of glue on there, and just kind of look around. And if you have any little areas that maybe aren't sitting completely flush, just shove a little bit of glue in there using your scrap piece and just press and hold that down for a few extra seconds so everything is nice and flat and even, so that when we start working on the next section, it doesn't cause any inconsistencies on the piece here. Okay, that looks good. All right, so now we've got this piece here. That's going to go on top. Okay, and what we're going to do is, well, we're going to get glued down sort of like so. But what we're going to do before we glue the top on is we're going to glue down one side of this, and I'm going to start with one of the sides that has these three little sections. Okay, so what I want to do, I'm going to put glue on all three of these, all the way up to this part here. All the way there, all the way there, and about there. That's good. You just lay that on top, doesn't matter exactly where. And then just take this middle one. You can see that there's a fold here. Line that up with the fold. Make sure that's nice and centered, and then just press that down all the way up to the top. Grab this guy here, press that down. Make sure that the little crease here lines up with the crease on the existing original, in my case, a vanilla roof. And then work your way up to this top section here to get that in place. And there you go. Okay, you can see how easy that was, giving this a nice little two-toned effect. Okay, and then we can go over to the other side, just peel this back, and actually, you know what we can do at this point is glue the entire roof down, or the top I should say. Just go easy on the glue here. And pop that right on top. Just make sure that right here at the little fold areas, you've got it nice and aligned. And then you can just kind of push that down from the inside and get that to stick nicely. Okay, there we go. And then, that was not my cat. Fold these back. And just like we did on the first side, go ahead and apply your glue to this entire little section here, as well as this little thin area, just like that. Okay, and fold that down. and over and right onto the corresponding little area there, just like that. And you can push up here as well to get that in place, just like that. And then we can peel this back, get our glue on this section here. The engineering on this is great. Actually makes it a lot easier instead of having all these individual little pieces. Okay, so again, just fold that over and just line that up. Fold it over, line it up, just like that. And then you can press down here as well and up here. There we go, beautiful. And that just leaves this little section here. Peel that back. Let's apply our glue. All the way out to the edge on that little skinny section, just like that. Fold that over, bring that down, and you may need to kind of give it a little bit of a nudge either to the left or to the right. And there we go. All right. So that's looking sharp. Oh, I forgot to press down in this area here. That's okay. And you can also use your table if that helps. And then just kind of go around, make sure everything is making good contact. I think that all looks pretty darn good to me. Yep. Okay. All right, so roof is pretty much complete. You know, I do have one little area here that is sticking out. Probably didn't get enough glue in that section. So again, I'm just going to use a scrap piece of paper. Throw a little bit of glue right on the very edge there and just tuck it in between these two layers here. And then just press and hold that down. I'll use my table just to make sure that I'm getting good contact here. So this project's going pretty quick, actually. Quicker than I thought it would. And there we go. Okay, so we do have a nice little cherry on top for this. What I'm going to do, we've got these two pieces here. Okay, we're going to glue these together to make it one long piece, and then we'll eventually connect both sides to make it kind of continuous. Okay, and what we're going to do is there's this one little area here. It's kind of like a tab. There's a fold there. Just throw a little bit of glue on there. It's a nice little dot. And line it up with the little scallop from the other one so that it's right on top of it. Or actually, I'm putting it behind this section here. Just hold those two sections together. And you can kind of fold it onto itself just to make sure that this piece here is nice and flush. These are not necessarily going to match up. Okay, and then same thing with the other side. Grab this tiny little tab here. Throw a dot of glue on there. Thin it out if you need to. If you put too much on like I did. And get that connected. Tuck that right behind the corresponding piece on the other side. This should lay flat. Should be able to make this nice and flat. It shouldn't bend or warp or anything like that. Okay, so we have that. We'll tuck these tabs in. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this red piece, and this red piece is going to go right inside here, like so. And that's going to help keep this thing's shape. Okay. Okay, so we have this part assembled. Now all we need to do is take the little red piece and glue that into place. So I'm just going to take some glue and just do a nice thin little line here. We don't need a whole heck of a lot of glue here. As long as it stays in place, That's all we really are concerned about. Just make sure that you don't accidentally crease one of these little guys here. These little accent pieces. Okay, that's good. And then we're going to take this whole thing and we're going to glue it to the top of our little lid. So let's get our glue on this whole section here. I'm going a little bit thicker here because I'm going to be spreading this out to the edge, and I just want to make sure I have enough glue to allow that to happen nicely. Just kind of spreading it out to the very edge so that when we do apply it to the top, everything looks nice and seamless. I'm going to hit that with a little extra glue there. And it's nice and tacky right now, so when we pop it on there, it should play nice for us. There we go. Okay, and just do your best to get that nice and centered on the top. Use your eyeballs and just press and hold that down, especially in the corners here where it may want to kind of lift up a little bit. That looks good. And don't push down too hard because you're going to end up damaging the little scallop sections on the bottom there. But that's kind of what we're looking for. So there is our top. That's pretty much done. I'm going to just hold this little area here for a few extra seconds. And there we go. Okay, so our lid is pretty much done. This little section here wants to lift up a little bit. I'm going to hold that in place for a few extra seconds. There we go. Okay, beautiful little lid. That's all ready to go. We've got our leg. We've got the little platform there. We've got our caption. And now we can begin putting together the actual structure here. Now, as I mentioned before, we're going to be using some acetate to kind of coat the inside of this thing so that, well, when we put our candy in here, it doesn't create a huge mess. And to do that, instead of glue, I'm actually going to use some, what is this called? Score tape? It's called score tape. Anyway. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're actually going to be using a little bit of score tape to keep our acetate in place. So I'm going to lay down the acetate just so that I know exactly how much score tape I'm going to need. Okay, and let's see here. Yeah, we'll start it about here. Bring it down to about here. And just give that a snip. Okay. So we'll do the same thing on the other side. And this is just for the acetate. I'm not going to be using this to actually hold the paper portion of it in place, just the acetate. Okay. Right about there. And then we'll do one from there to here. Well, actually, you know what? You don't want to, I already did it, but you don't want to overlap this because it's going to be hard to get off later on. So whatever you do, don't overlap it. Okay, and just give that a snip, just like that. And then you can peel off the backing. It really holds onto paper quite well. So the backing should be pretty easy to peel off. I spoke too soon. There we go. Okay, just peel off that backing. And this will just give it a nicer aesthetic. If you don't have any score tape, you can easily just glue this down using glue. The glue will hold. We've used it before with acetate, shouldn't be a problem. But for the sake of just making it look nice, we're going to use the score tape And there we go. And that will hold nicely for us. Okay, so you can see we've got the little acetate on there that's going to protect the paper and just make it look really nice on the inside as well. Okay, and then when we connect this section here, well, let's see how much of an overlap. So when we apply our score tape onto this section, we're going to try to bring it as close to the edge here as we can. Okay, and that's just to allow enough area for our paper to actually, well, enough area for the glue that we use to get the paper in place. Okay, so I'm just going to do this here. And let me start here in the center. Get it right up to the very edge there without it going over too much. Okay, and just give that a snip. And do the same thing on this side. And then go one here to about there. Give that a snip. And one here, another one here. Give that a snip. Okay, and we'll peel this off. Stuff's pretty strong. Should definitely endure the test of time. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, and of course, this section here has the thinner little piece of acetate, so just make sure that you're not using the larger one there. Okay, and I'm going to pop that down into place. There we go. That looks nice. And you can see here, we got plenty of real estate to glue this down onto so that it sits nicely for us. Okay, let's get the rest of the acetate in place, and then we can begin putting this together. And the rest of it should go pretty quick. So just get your acetate in place, and I will meet you at the next step here in just a moment. Okay, so I've got my acetate on all four sides here. And next we're going to begin by just gluing these two sections together to make them one. And then ultimately we'll glue the other side together to make it a box. Okay, so I've got my glue on the tab here. Going to spread that glue out to the very edges. Okay, and just get that nice and aligned. Make sure you've got it nice and aligned there. Give that a press. And then you can fold it over onto itself and give it a little nudge. Just to make sure that you in fact do have it lined up as accurately as you can. Okay, give that a press. There we go. And that worked out nicely. And now head on over to the other tab here. Get your glue on that. There we go. Spread that glue out if you want. Don't have to, I like to, just because it makes everything that much more polished. And then just fold the other side over. It should fit perfectly and aligned perfectly for you, since this is it's a symmetric piece. And you can fold it over the other way as well. Give that a little push. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to tuck these in. We're going to close up the bottom, flip this around, and we're going to apply glue to these three tabs so we can close up the bottom. And I'm going to spread that glue out to the very edges. Okay, and let's close this up. Focus on aligning this side here, the side that is opposite the side that is already hinged down. And then these two sides should just kind of fall into place, but give that a press and hold that in place just so that it doesn't go anywhere. And you know what, I just realized I did. Okay, so now this is where I kind of goofed up. Okay, so now we do have a little liner that's going to go in there, and just to make it look nice, I'm going to put some score tape on this, because we're going to put another piece of acetate on here to protect the bottom, so that when we put whatever food item we're going to put in here, it won't bleed into the paper and kind of warp or discolor the paper. Should, for the most part, keep it fairly protected. It's not like a perfect cutaway or cutout, but it will do the job for the most part, for the bulk of it. Okay, so I'm just putting a little score tape right on here. And I'm going to peel this off. There we go. There we go. Come on, score tape. Just a matter of getting used to it. I don't use it that often. Okay, and then here's your last little piece. We're going to pop that right on here, just to kind of protect that surface. And then take a little bit of glue and throw a little bit of glue around the perimeter on the inside, like that. And we're just going to drop this piece in. It's a nice little liner. It'll help make this a little more structurally sound. And you can, of course, because it's got that acetate in there, it's going to protect the bottom from whatever food item you put in there. And there we go. Okay, so now I'm going to put the lid on. We've got this little piece here. This guy here is going to go right on top here, just to make this look nice up on top. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick a side, any side. Let's pick the longer side here and get some glue on this tab. We're going to anchor this little top piece to this section. Okay, so just get that nice and aligned and centered. There we go. Okay, and then we'll close it up. We'll put glue on the remaining 3 tabs, just like we did with the bottom. And close this up. And then it's just a matter of putting on some panels, and then all those little sections that we assembled at the beginning, those are going to go on, and our project will pretty much be done, minus any little embellishments we may want to add. And for those, you want to take a look at the final photo to see and get some ideas on what else you could add to it. They're not required by any means, which is why we don't typically show you during the videos. But okay, so go ahead and flare these tabs up a little bit, bring this down, and just like before, focus on getting this side aligned, the side opposite the side that is already anchored, and just make sure that that is nice and centered. And then the other 2 sides should just kind of fall into place. And you can get your finger in there so you can push down. It's kind of like you're making a little pie crust. There you go, go all the way around. Beautiful little box, ready for whatever you want to put in it. Okay, there we go. Let's take a look. No one's really going to see that for the most part. So, okay, so we got a nice sturdy box. And we do have some panels that are going to get glued to this. And you can see where those are going to go. We have a nice little even border that will result on the inside here once we get this all into place. And well, there's 4 sides obviously, and these two are the same, so it doesn't matter which one you put where. They also have some little markers on there to help you with the positioning of the wheels, so that'll be handy in just a moment. But in the meantime, let's get this in place. And a little bit of surface area here to cover. This is a graphic 45 paper, so it's not as porous. For me, this will make my life easier. If you're not using a pattern paper like that, you may have to work a little bit quicker before that glue sets to get it into place. So just be efficient. Don't worry about getting glue on every single little square inch, but definitely try to work it into as many sections as you can. And I'm kind of using my thumb here, excuse me, to guide the placement of this. I want it to be nice and flush with the bottom, and by doing so, it should automatically kind of get it nice and flush with the sides and the top. Okay, so we're just gonna press that into place. And you can bring your finger inside as well, but focus on making sure that you've got it nice and centered and that it's making good contact all the way around. We can always go back in and touch things up using our little painting method should we need to, if things are not completely flush. All right, I'm going to go over to the next side here, grab our next panel, and we'll get that into place. And we're pretty much on the home stretch here, folks. Not a bad project. We're clocking in at, well, I don't know exactly. I know we did about 30 minutes before. We're probably at about another 20 minutes, so not a bad project at all, especially considering how cool the end result is. It's decorative and functional. I love when we can accomplish both. Okay, so using my finger here just to kind of help me feel the alignment. And I'm going to focus on making sure that the bottom is aligned. Since we have a roof for this, I'm not overly concerned about the top being perfectly in place. It could be a little bit of, the margin of error. If there's more error up at the top, that's probably a little bit better, because that way we can hide it with the roof. But the bottom is going to be a little less forgiving because we're going to be able to see the bottom. Okay, that looks really sharp so far. Looks like a little ticket booth too, kind of. That's what I'm seeing there. I'm going to do the smaller section. So you kind of get where we're going here. Got 2 more panels to put on, and then it's just a matter of getting into what I'll call IKEA mode and just kind of putting all the rest of the stuff and assembling the rest of the stuff in place. That's a fun store to walk through. Okay, all right, so lay that down. Again, kind of just using my fingers on the bottom and on the sides just to make sure that I'm getting the alignment as precise as possible. And then just kind of running my fingers along the perimeter. I can see here, up here, that little lid piece that I put on is not playing well, not playing nice, and it's kind of coming up a little bit. So I will fix that real quick by grabbing a scrap piece of paper, throwing a little glue on there, and just kind of tucking it in between those 2 layers like that. And then just pressing and holding that down. Let that set, it'll look nicer. Okay, so almost there. That looks perfect. Okay, last side. Get that in place. So how are you guys doing with yours at this point? Doing well, I hope? Coming together? It's pretty simple. It's just a box. The acetate is something that's a little different, but we've done that before. We've used glue before. We've put panels on before. So I'm anticipating that a lot of you will have great success with this project. I don't see why not. Okay, and again, just kind of using my thumb here on the side and then on the bottom to get a feel for the alignment. There we go. feels good there. And we'll press that down. Press that down, and look at that. Beautiful. Perfectly sized too. These panel pieces are a little oversized so that when we do get them in place, they kind of meet perfectly right at the edges. It makes it look even more seamless. So that looks great. I'll throw our little roof on there. That looks great. Okay, so now I've got my wheels. Hey, wheels. How you doing, wheels? Okay. They may be tough to see on patterned paper, but there we go. Okay, so there's a little marker here and a little marker here to help with the positioning of these two rounded corners. Okay, and then there's also a little marker there and a marker here so that you can get this nice and centered as well. Okay, and so it's going to go on something like that. Okay, and then what we're going to need to do is kind of figure out where to put glue and where not to put glue. And that's okay. Even if we get a little bit of glue on the back of this where it doesn't need to be, it's not the end of the world because you're not really going to see that. So I'm not overly concerned about it, but we definitely need to get glue on this whole section. I'm going to go a little bit heavier on the glue here. Okay, and then let me see. I'm going to go down the spoke here, or the wheel, and then maybe a little bit in here. I probably did too much, but that's okay. It'll dry clear. It won't look too bad. Again, find the little corner here, find the corner there, and just try to make sure that you keep it level, and just press and hold that in place for just a moment. Okay, so wheel 1 is in place. Now, wheel 2, you want to make sure that you don't do it this way. It's got to go this way, like so. And same thing here. We do have the little markers to help you with the positioning. And again, also visually, if you want to make sure that there's a nice even border here, you don't want it like that or like that, use the little marker there to guide you. And it looks like I put glue in pretty much just the right spots. So just follow along with me and you'll be okay. Just get your glue right about there, a little bit down on the wheel here, a little bit up there. And that should be plenty. Okay. Again, find those guides. If you're using patterned paper, you may have to really kind of look very closely to make sure you've got it in the right spot, and then just press and hold that down. Okay, and the rest of this is pretty much just embellishments after we get the little tray and the legs on, and that should pretty much do it. All right, now let's put the little legs on. Now we want the section that has the little red piece to be facing outward, and you want just about that much, right about there, I'd say is pretty good. You want maybe a quarter inch from the front, so it doesn't go right up against the front. You got about a quarter inch there. And I'm going a little bit heavier on the glue here, and that's okay. So again, the red part facing out, and about a quarter inch there. Just press that down, make sure that it's nice and flush on both sides, nice and even, and then we can put that down, and it's sitting really nice for us. Let's get our roof on here just to get a feel for what this is starting to look like. That's pretty darn cute. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to leave that like that and let gravity do its thing while we take our little tray here, and tray, let me see here. Yeah, so we're going to line up the tray right here where I'll show you, right where the pattern paper ends. The top of this is going to line up right where that ends, and you want to get that nice and centered as well. Okay, so that's where that's going to go. Again, we're going to let gravity do its job there while we put glue on this section here. And my glue bottle is starting to clog up. And spread that glue out to the very top, the very edges here, just to make sure that it gets a good hold all the way around. Okay, and again, just right beneath the pattern paper, you're basically covering it up to the part where the pattern paper is. Get it nice and centered as well. I gotta scooch mine over a little bit. There we go. And just press that down in its place. If you need to, if you can get your hand in there, you can push from the inside to kind of help that section get into place. Just be very careful if you do that. Okay, there we go. Legs are in place, wheels are in place, lid is in place, thing's done. It's ready for, well, it's ready for your treats. And before we do that though, let me move this out of the way. I have to be a little more patient with this little tray part here. It's not fully set yet. And we do have a series of little flowers. Oh, and also, let's not forget, we're going to put some foam squares on the back of our little caption here that says candy. We're going to pop dot that or foam square it, whatever you want to call it. I think 2 is plenty. We'll just put them right here in the thicker parts of the caption. Don't have to put it on the C. I think that'll hold just fine. And we'll get that nice and centered. Now if you are filling this with popcorn, maybe you don't want to put the word candy on here. You can use whatever else you want, put something else on there. Make your own caption or stamp something, whatever it is you want to do. Okay, let's get this one in here. And then we do have a series of little flowers that we're going to add to the side of this. There's going to be one flower that goes on the wheel. I'll go over that real quick. It's pretty straightforward. Oh no, I dropped one. Of course. Of course. Okay, so we have 2 really large flowers. And these flowers, I'm going to take my little dowel here, even though this is glitter paper, I'm going to curl these petals towards me just to give them a little bit of dimension. And these largest flowers here are going to get glued to the center of each wheel. Okay, so we'll just throw a little bit of glue right on the actual flower itself and pop that right in the center of our little wheel here. And I'm going to stay on this side for now because that hasn't fully set. We're going to put a flower here and a flower here, and each of those flowers has a little set of leaves. They're really tiny, but if you can give the leaves a little pinch, you should be able to do it. Give them a little pinch just to kind of make them a little more dimensional. And let me take a look at the size of these flowers. Yeah, so there's 4 really small flowers. Okay, these 4 here, those are for these little sections here. So, and I am going to take my dowel and just kind of curl these petals back a little bit, bring them to life a little more. And then we can take just a little dot of glue, put them on this little leaf, and glue our flower to the little leaf. Like so. Just give that a second to set. And then take your glue, put a little dot of glue on the back of the leaf, and just pop that right into place, right in that little corner section there, like that. Okay, so we're going to do that 4 more times with the small little leaves and petals or flowers on both sides. So each side gets a flower on the wheel and then 2 flowers in these little cutaway areas. And then that just leaves 1 little flower which we'll put on the top, well actually 2 little flowers that we'll put on the top of the little roof. There we go. I'm just kind of shaping the flowers right now, and then there should be 3 more of these tiny little guys here. Again, if you can give those leaves a little pinch. Just pinch the tip to give that a little bit more depth. Then glue that to the back of the flower. I'm going to let that set for a second. You can kind of use a dowel to push the center on there so that it takes a hold a little bit quicker. So again, just kind of pinching these petals, or these leaves I should say, they're not petals. And then as always, totally optional, I'm not going to show you during the video, but take a look at the final photos as well as the video trailer to see what other sorts of embellishments we've added to the final project here. There'll be plenty of little rhinestones and maybe even some pearls, just to kind of fill in any little areas that need something, like here on the little spokes of the wheels and well, just various little areas. You guys are pretty good about doing that. You'll take a look at the photos, and I noticed that you do spend the time to add some extra bling to your projects to really set them off. And then so this large flower here, again, that one is for the other wheel. So I'm going to train these petals back, get those ready to go for the other side once we get there. And then these petals here, this flower, we're going to train this back as well. And these have larger little leaves, and those are going to go on the roof. So I'm just going to build these real quick, and then we'll just put them into place when we're ready. I may even use a little foam square to get those into place. And then these larger leaves go with these 2 medium-sized flowers. And again, here I am pinching the leaves here just to kind of give them a little bit of dimension. Okay, we'll do the same thing to this one. Give that a little pinch. And then a little dot of glue in the center of these leaves, medium-sized flower, one for each little leaf, like that. Just press and hold that down. Give that a press with your dowel if you'd like. That one's going to go there. And then there. Give that a press. Okay. We need to put one little flower here. I'm just going to put the glue right on there. You can do that too. Depends on how I'm feeling as far as how I go about doing certain things. Okay, but you can see how that looks. Is that in focus? Okay. And we'll flip her over. Hopefully those leaves don't fall off. And again, I've got the largest flower. It's going to go in the center of the wheel. Just like that. Make sure you keep that nice and centered. And then the 2 smaller flowers in those little designated areas, just like the other side. I'm going to use my dowel to push that in place. Grab my other one. Whoa. He's like, I'm done working today. The glue is on strike. Pop that into place. And that's it for those flowers. And then finally, let me move this out of the way real quick. We'll grab our roof, and we're going to pop that right about there. And let's see, I'm not going to use a foam square. I'm just going to glue it down. It's got enough dimension as it is. So throw a little glue on there, and just kind of, just right about there. Perfect. And then the same thing on the other side. Pop that into position. Right about there. And that sums it up, folks. Okay. And there she is. Look at that. Very cool. Very cute. All right, well, that wraps it up. Again, take a look at the final photo to see what else we did as far as embellishments go. But I had a great time putting this one together. Not too bad at all, maybe just over an hour. So if you enjoyed the video, please take a moment and head over to our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. That lets me know that you enjoy our products and you enjoy crafting with me. If you make this or anything from our new bundle, I would love to see it, and so would the 20,000 plus other dreamers that inspire us daily. So anyway, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I look forward to crafting with you again.